Welcome back to your daily dose. I'm Robert. This is my yes, eventually friend, Susan. Which is kind of true to our relationship. We found a friendship later in life for both of us, and it's as I've told you many times, and everyone needs to hear, one of the most valuable friendships of my life. So I'm deeply grateful. Um, the we were talking about the neurological effect of improv, and this is really it's a deep dive at this point because the book is coming out. I can say that the title is Acceptance, at least the working title for now. I think it'll make it through. I really like it. And, reflecting on the years of the PhD and the development of the program and how it all comes together. And a lot of that is the early part of our relationships. And how does this work? And so the great bookend that I got in my PhD program was the terrible struggle in the front, and then the wonderful acceptance by my final mentor James, in which he didn't just yes and me through without looking. He challenged my work through the lens of pedagogy, which is the study of learning and teaching, right? And that is that's where I think some of our stuff goes. Do you remember this game we played earlier this week where we talked about being in a rut, and we were walking in a rut, and it was a neurological rut, as if we were in one of the grooves of our brain, and pathway we knew because we'd walked it so many times, very familiar and potentially very limiting, right? Because maybe we walked this so many times, those walls had become like a canyon. And we talked about how to break out of those ruts, and we had some fun creative applications and things like that. That really speaks toward learning, because here's one thing I feel very strongly about, is that learning takes effort, right? And it's not always comfortable neurologically speaking. It's a painful physiological process to draw a new line across our brain, especially if we have these familiar ones where we go, zip, zip, that's so easy, I can do that all day. Well, the new ones take time, they take effort, and there might really be pain. So I wonder about that for you. Um, do you, when we talk about neuroplasticity, does improv give you any ability to draw lines faster, to be more comfortable in your learning process? Have you noticed that at all?
I would say yes, because you frequently say there's no wrong way to do this, there's no right way to do this. So there's an enormous amount of freedom
Right.
and latitude and kind of openness to that. So heck yes,
Yeah.
um, that those connections probably are wiring faster without judgment, without rules, without stuff, without old voices in my head, you know.
Yeah. And
Trying
that fits perfectly with Charles Lim's stuff, the neuroscientist from UCSF who tested this in the fMRI. And just what you said is exactly what he saw, that people doing rote work, things that were written down and memorization type stuff, it accessed a certain part of their brain. And then those who were doing improvisational work, the parts that are more judgmental, they were relaxed, and the parts of the brain that lit up, that were flowing with blood while they were improvising, were in a space, like you said, where more creativity was allowed. And therefore, yeah, I don't think it's an unreasonable
yeah.
thing to think that learning becomes easier with an improvisational mindset.
Yeah, Robert, when you teach us, you break the game that's down here that we're eventually going to play. We don't start there.
Right.
Probably start two steps before that.
Right.
It might seem like a very simplistic little game, and then you add something to it, and you can almost feel those grooves, and then you get to the real game, or maybe there's four steps, and we did that with Blurt moving into gibberish and then defining gibberish. It was
Right.
probably 4 or 5 steps. By
Yeah.
the time you kind of prompt warmed us up and prepared us, our it's not that we uh, flipped a switch. We earned it. We earned it.
You
Learn
described
how
that very well. That's exactly the intent, and you know that you develop the skills to where eventually when the game happens, you're like, oh, I'm just putting together those four skills I just learned. And you know, were you to try to do the skill thing, you know, the game without that setup, oh yeah. I mean, and this is the job again from a pedagogical standpoint of a teacher is to find the students where they are, right? Instead of just saying, this is what we're trying to learn, you guys come up here and find me.
that's
That's
right.
horrible. That's horrific. And so many people teach that way from a standpoint of blindness, going, well, I know it. Why don't you? Here, I'll say it. Now, don't you know it? I mean, that's just not how education or learning works.
Oh.
Instead, and this is the great challenge of teaching, and to me, I enjoy it, is how can I break down what I know? Because it forces you to relearn it too, you
It,
know?
yeah, that's cool.
You know,
It's cool and it's fun for you, and you learn something in the process of doing that. I love hearing that.
yeah. Well, I mean, the cool thing is when somebody gets it, right? And not only gets it, but then most excitingly does something with it that I could have never imagined. And that's the gift of improv, right? Helping people say, do, be things that they could have never imagined. And you just go, yep, all I did was help unlock a door. It was sitting there waiting to come out of you. And I
Yeah,
feel incredibly honored in that regard to help people.
absolutely. Yeah, let's come back and talk about the gifts of improv.
You got it. See you on the next dose.
Okay.